Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee Experts. Drew, good to see you, sir.
What's up, man? Good afternoon.
Welcome back stateside.
Thank you. It's nice to breathe free American air again.
Free American air. Yeah, it's a great day today. Glad to have everybody listening to the podcast. Today, we want to talk about new employees and just the practicalities of what it all looks like. Just to give a shameless plug, I mean, if you are looking to start your own new coffee company, if you've just opened up your first location, everything in between, this is your one-stop shop for how do we even do this dang thing?
Mm-hmm.
How do I run a drive-through coffee company? So what we wanted to talk about was just the practicality of, what does new hiring process look like? What does it look like to go from hiring a new employee, onboarding, training? Do you just like run up to some kid on the street and say, hey, you want to make coffee, and just go throw them in your shop day of? Like, how does that all work? I know especially a lot of people who are getting ready to start. That's probably a big, like, how do I even do this? Like, I don't even have a shop yet. I'm still building, or maybe I'm moving into a new place. Like, where do I even begin with training people? It's probably a big looming question on a lot of people's minds. So I figured we could kind of break down how we've done in the past, how you guys do it at De Los Mayas, and kind of give some people some good advice.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think training is, we all know that training is important, but I think that there's so many layers to why it's important. So many good habits and perspectives that you can tuck into your training that's really going to help, boost your store, your baristas, your image and culture up. I think beyond just a standard training process. So,
Yeah, let's start with, I'll start with how we did it at Roasters, and maybe you give everybody the rundown on how you guys do it at DLM, and we could just kind of talk about the pros and cons of each side. But at Roasters, we always started. The great thing at Roasters is we never had to go out and find, like, we never had to search for employees. We got to a certain point where it's like we always had a stack of resumes in the back. The manager would do, would run interviews, and they'd have some on the back burner. We always advocated for, talking to people who drop off resumes and say, hey, I don't have a position now, but as soon as one opens up, can I, give you a call? So we always had a really good influx of potential workers. But once we hired somebody, for us, it was, they did their onboarding, which was a day where we went through the whole employee handbook, all the rules and regs. This is all of the stuff, or at least for Washington State, that you need to know. And then they would do like 3 to 5 days. I started off as like 5 days, but I think we actually got it condensed down to 3, of like where it was just the trainer, which was myself for like the longest time, but just one-on-one, or like maybe a group of 3, like hands-on. Here's a whole day on how to pull shots. Here's, a whole day on how to steam milk and build the drink. Here's a whole day on the flow of the bar before they even got into a shop. Now, that was easy for us because we had a whole training center at the, towards the end there, but you could do that in shop too, during the slow times, or maybe even, like if your shop closes at 6, you have them come in at 6:30 and do some closing cleanup afterwards. That's how we would do it, and then they would do a whole 2 weeks worth more of short training shifts inside the shop on the bar with, the manager basically over their shoulder, and that's kinda how we do it, and it evolved a little bit, over the times, but that was the pretty basic structure of it. Give them some intense, like, one-on-one time up front, and then slowly get them used to, like, the chaos of actually being on bar. Do you guys, is that pretty similar to how you guys are doing it down there? Have you changed that up? How does that look?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar structure. I saw how effective that it was at Roasters. A little bit of the difference, I think, in how we approach the training down there is that the industry's still new. It's something that most people don't really know or understand or haven't heard of. The word barista, they'd never heard that word when we went down to Belize. So the work ethic doesn't necessarily need to be taught. The kids are really hard workers. But
Mhm.
when it comes to the kind of complexities of a menu, how to memorize a menu, how to memorize the ingredients list or flavors and specific drinks,
Mhm.
it's become a little bit more labor intensive on the memorization side. And so what we've changed kind of, it has been some documentation. We provide things like flashcards, just for
Hmm.
repetitive, ongoing, on bar. I mean, I'm sure you ran into where you kind of run out of things to say because
Yep.
you can only repeat the same few sentences so many times. But having flashcards gives it not just yourself, but if let's say you leave a newbie in there with an assistant manager or somebody who's not a regular trainer, it gives them a platform to just consistently be drilling the drinks into the baristas. And so that's one thing that we've kind of changed is really emphasizing the memorizing of
Hmm.
the drinks, flavors, recipes. Another thing that we've kind of put more emphasis on is more time spent with the customer service side of things. Customer service is also something that is very, I mean, I'd call it service oriented, but in Belize, there's not a lot of quick service like what we do. So the people who come from a service oriented position is usually like a server, or a bartender or a host or some form of like a longer engagement than just a minute or two.
Mhm.
So we've had to kind of work out how to train the kids on, okay, memorize your drinks, whether or not that's flashcards, whether or not that's posting in plain sight, a recipe or
Yep.
the, 5 or 6 main signature drink recipes. And then again on customer service, so making them spend the time in the window, helping them with, short but sweet conversations
Yep.
because I mean, in Belize, they love to talk. They're talkers. So trimming that down to not feeling rushed, but a efficient short term conversation, whether that's talking points or training them on asking, open ended questions, but not consistent, not just continuously asking
Giving
these open ended
closed-ended answers.
yeah, yeah, something like that. So real emphasis on memorization, real emphasis on customer service, and we're thinking about actually making our training about a month long,
Oh, wow.
just to give that little bit more opportunity for the kids to work on those skills before kicking them out of the nest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I think that we learned in the past was not kicking them out of the nest too soon because it can just be such chaos. Especially if your shop is busy, it's almost, if you're training somebody, it was always like this giant, like, ugh, because you know that your shift is gonna happen. It's like we're like, oh god, we got the trainee now. We all have to work twice as hard because this person's gonna be messing up everything.
Uh,
But if you can, like, if you can make that as easy as possible on the rest of everybody who's working and on the rest of the baristas, that's best. So I mean, especially stretching out. If you can stretch out their time, so would you do like longer training time, shorter shifts, but just over a longer period of time, or would you do like full shifts, like, but just extend that out toward the whole month?
yeah, so I think the way that we do it now is short shifts for the first 2 weeks, which is
Mm.
the entirety of training. At the end of the 2 weeks, we want them to take a flow test. Well, short shifts for the first week and full shifts for the second week to train them on opening, closing, mid shift, all the tasks
Mm.
associated with those. But then we want them to take a flow test, and if they pass, fantastic. If not, additional weeks training. How I think I would do it is similar to the first 2 week structure, and then just having them be an additional body for those second 2 weeks. And we're looking at ways to kind of incentivize that because it's not glamorous to think a month of training. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like an attractive offer.
Sure.
So we're working on ways to incentivize the kids to make it through that first month with just being trainees. And I think I would stick them on window for a good majority of it, because the ones who are good at window, the ones who are good at talking, are the ones who usually do really well in the business. So those second 2 weeks, I think I'd make full shifts just as an additional body. And I would put them through the discomfort of constantly talking to customers.
Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes, how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, and it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there.
Stuck on windows. And
Yeah.
you made a point too. It's something that we didn't mention is having a flow test. I don't know if a lot of, I mean, you see this a lot in obviously big coffee companies, right? The BlackRocks, the Dutch Bros, the Starbucks. Like there's a legitimate test at the end of the training period where it's not like, hey, we put you through training, we think you're okay, just have at it. Like no, like even at Roasters, it was like, well, it was like a 50 page long or 50 question long written test. And then it was also like, okay, now you have to actually make the drinks. You can't just memorize the information. You have to make the drink. And the manager is actually testing you and confirming that you can actually make quality drinks. I think that's probably something that a lot of smaller coffee shops, or even if you're like only one location, or if you're getting ready to start a location, don't discount. Like we need to actually make sure that they remember everything that you trained them, because otherwise, like you've just wasted 3 weeks of training, and you're like, all right, let's just throw them on bar. Before you know it, you've got horrible drinks going out the window, and then your customers are pissed about it, and sales start tanking. It's a very important key that I think not a lot of people pay attention to.
Yeah, and we also need to be cautious, just assuming that the kids know what we're telling them just because they don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the younger, newer baristas get nervous to say they don't know. So taking away that nervousness or the opportunity for them to kind of sneak by as a knowledgeable barista and pressing them on these things like, okay, answer me these questions, or how about you ask me questions, to get yourself into the mindset of kind of how to build a drink. Yeah, I think it's important. So I mean, I've worked with baristas that they pass their flow test and 2 months later they're making things wrong. You know what I mean? So not just letting them off, their training leash, so to speak, but also in the following weeks having somebody really watching them, because as you mentioned, customers, they expect consistency, and when they get a drink, the same drink 2 days in a row, and it tastes different, that really is on the brand.
Well, I mean, we've had, I mean, that was the running joke at Roasters for the longest time, right? How do you make a non-fat, sugar-free Snickers? Like,
Yeah.
you could be working at, we'd have baristas who were working there for a year and a half, and we go and be like, bro, what are you doing? That's completely wrong. I mean, and that's what we were like, we should probably implement quarterly reviews just to make sure everybody knows how to still make these drinks, which is, I highly encourage anybody, if you're not doing quarterly reviews, at least do like a quarterly test on like, do you remember your recipes? Because like there's a lot, especially as you're coming up with new seasonal drinks and new fun, holiday stuff. Like it's a lot for a barista to remember. And if there's a drink on there that doesn't get ordered that often, I guarantee you they're forgetting how to make that. So at least once every 3 months, being like, okay, what do I? And I would always pick like the least popular drink. We'd have the ice rocket. Every barista knows how to make an ice rocket. Everybody knows how to make a vanilla latte. How do you make a 16-ounce hot, non-fat or almond milk, sugar-free, extra sweet, gingerbread latte? Like, oh my God, I can't remember. But those are the drinks that are important, because those 12 people that come in, if they're all getting the wrong drink, that's 12 pissed off people who aren't going to come in anymore.
Mhm. Well, and I think we need to stop viewing training as like a 2-week process, because really, like if I'm learning something new, there's no way I'm going to be ready to rock and roll after just 2
Yep.
weeks. And I remember being a new barista, and it took me a lot longer than 2 weeks to memorize everything. So I think we can forget as old dogs, and even our managers or our veterans can forget what it's like to go through that initial couple of weeks. But it is overwhelming, and it is not just a new job, but a new environment, new skills, new coworkers. So it can be a little bit harder to memorize things. So training really is an ongoing thing. I'd say a good solid barista takes, a year, 6 to
Yeah.
8 months to a year to really get, if they're brand new, to really get their feet on the ground, to get confident, to get comfortable, to be like a presence of confidence in the store, making drinks, talking to customers with all the tasks that go on behind the scenes. Training is an ongoing thing. And I mean, we have, like I just mentioned, we have baristas that we do our reviews every 6 months. And we do put them through another flow test. We put them through some training videos that we have created just because we really want to make sure everything's done correctly. And
Yep.
it's harder to do if you don't have systems in place when you're a smaller business. If you don't have automatic things that you can manage and check, such as videos. Like I can push out videos to the kids with a type form on the back end, and I can make sure all the kids do them every 6 months.
Yep.
Rather than me going into the store, sitting with the baristas, making sure they're taking their flow test, making sure they're not cheating. So implementation of automatic systems where I can just check things on the back end has helped so much in keeping the consistency from store to store.
Yeah, I think you make a good point too. Like we look at, and I've always looked at training. We always thought of training of like, 3 weeks flow test, you're good to go, bing, bang, boom. But that's really not, I mean, what we're talking about when we say like initial training, we're talking about like, we're getting you good enough so that you're not a complete drag on the afternoon crew when you're in there working with them. Like you can at least stand on your own 2 feet with an afternoon crew or with your assistant. But you're right. To be able to, that ability to multitask, have some situational awareness so that you can be making a drink while holding a conversation, while thinking about the next drink that's up behind that. Like that takes so long to get down. And really what we're talking about with initial training is let's get them to the point where they can pull shots and have somebody else be aware for them and help guide them. But it is that takes such a long time, and that takes really good. I think that takes really good awareness from your location manager, from your assistant manager, from your shift lead, whoever it may be. If you have those positions of, okay, I've got a new person in here, I got to kind of pick up the slack for them and help guide them so they don't just get overwhelmed and say like, screw this, I'm out the door. This is too hard.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, some people have these qualities, or it comes easier to some people. If we, can kind of just zoom out a little bit and talk about how to recruit and hire, how to find good baristas, there are some really pointed things that we do in our interviews and in our initial, couple of days of training to make sure that this person is going to be a good fit, and, checking their discomfort level in the window, pushing them, standing behind them and pushing them to make conversation. We don't always do it down in Belize, but we would here in the States. We'd stick somebody in the window for 2 or 3 customers during the interview process just to see, is this really uncomfortable person? Conversation, did they clam up? But that wasn't always make or break, because some real nervous people would end up being really good baristas. So there's other factors like we'd ask them what their favorite thing is about themselves. And if they're like nothing, it's like, oh, well, you got to kind of like yourself in order to like other people. So, pointed questions on kind of other perspective on people, because we're a people-centric business. And if your baristas are in the window not liking people, not liking themselves, then the customer experience is going to, I think, reflect some of those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even from just a hands-on point, it took me the longest time to accept was like the first 3 days of training where I would teach them the core principles, 3 hours of like, this is what pulling espresso is. This is how the machine works. Here's how you pull a shot. Let's all pull shots together. And then like day 2 of like, here's how we construct a drink, X amount of flavoring or syrup, X amount of shots, X amount of milk. Like it was hard for me to give up the fact that like, if they don't know how to pull shots after day 3 and they've had one-on-one time with me for 3 hours a day pulling shots, And the third day they come in and I go, okay, how do you pull a shot? And they go, I don't know. Like they're like, for me, it was really hard to be like, dude, you're not sorry. You're not going to make it. Like for the longest time, I was like, no, this is a smart kid. They could totally do it. But in reality, like if you give somebody like 6 to 9 hours of direct one-on-one training, going over 2 or 3 topics, and at the end of that, they're like, I don't know. That's a really good sign. Maybe you need to find somebody else. The kid's just not going to make it.
But we kind of had to grow into that, cutting people loose early.
Mhm.
And it sounds bad when I phrase it like that, but really, if someone isn't good at it in the first few days, that's going to be just as much uncomfortable job for them as it is going to be for other people around them and the customers. So it's kind of helpful to those people to be like, hey, this is probably not going to be a good fit for you.
Mhm.
And I remember having some of those conversations. They're not fun to have, but I think in the long run, it benefits you as a business, and it's going to benefit those baristas or almost baristas.
Absolutely. Well, sir, thank you for a little bit of practical advice. Again, if you guys, all you listeners out there, if you ever want some more advice, you can always check out coffeeexpertsacademy.com. We deep dive into this stuff at length for 30 plus hours, talking about what it takes to get people in and get your shop up and running. So check it out, and we will talk to y'all next time.
Cool. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, sir. See you guys.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.